in a land where stories breathe through the trees and legends walk among the living. A child was born, but not an ordinary child, for in her eyes burned fire, real fire, a sign of power, or a curse, feared by her people, abandoned by her village, yet destined to change everything. This is the story of the baby born with fire in her eyes, an African tale of fear, destiny, and the power hidden within us all. Now, listen closely. Her journey begins. In the heart of ancient Africa, where the rivers sang to the moon and the wind whispered secrets through the baobab trees, there stood a village untouched by time, a place of peace, stories, and silence. But one night, everything changed. A blood moon hung heavy over the village, its crimson glow bathing the earth like a warning. And as the villagers huddled in their huts, a scream pierced the night, the cry of a newborn. But this was no ordinary child. For when her mother looked into her daughter's eyes, she saw fire, not a reflection, but real living flames, dancing behind the child's dark pupils. Her name was Nyah, and from that moment forward, nothing was ever the same. At first, there was silence. Her mother, Abeni, stared at her newborn daughter, torn between awe and terror. The midwives stumbled backward. The village elder shook his head, whispering a single word: cursed. By morning, the entire village knew. A child born with fire in her eyes, a child of the blood moon, a child of ruin. They came to Abeni's hut with fear burning in their hearts. Give her to the forest, the elder said coldly. Let the spirits take back what is theirs. But Abeni stood tall. This child is mine. She carries my blood. Then your blood is cursed, spat one woman. Yet Abeni would not yield, and so they left her, but the whispers never stopped. Nyah. The cursed child. As Nyah grew, the fire in her eyes never faded. Each night, when the flames of the village fires burned low, her eyes glowed brighter. Villagers would see her from afar and turn away. Children were told not to speak to her. Mothers crossed themselves when she passed, and though Abeni tried to shield her, Nyah felt their fear. She heard their whispers. Demon, witch, danger. She asked her mother, why do they fear me? And Abeni's heart broke. She kissed her daughter's burning forehead and whispered, because they do not understand. But understanding could not erase loneliness. Nyah wandered the village edges, barefoot and silent. She watched the children play. She watched the men carve canoes. She watched the women weave baskets, but no one watched her, not with love, only fear. One night, under the blood moon, once again, Nyah sat alone by the river. She stared at her reflection. The flames flickered in her eyes. She whispered to herself, why am I like this? And from the shadows, a voice replied, because you are not meant to be like them. Startled, Nyah turned. An old woman sat beneath the trees. Her eyes were clouded blind, yet somehow she saw everything. Who are you? Nyah asked. I am one who remembers, the old woman said softly. Remembers what? That once, long ago, a child like you was born. Nyah leaned forward. What happened to her? The old woman's voice trembled. She chose her path. As you will. And then she was gone. Only silence remained, and the soft crackle of Nyah's unseen fire. From that night forward, Nyah began to wonder. Perhaps her fire was not a curse. Perhaps it was something else. But what? She did not yet know. And as the villagers slept that night, whispering prayers of protection, none knew that darkness was coming. Not from the girl they feared, but from the shadows they could not see. From that night by the river, where the old blind woman spoke her riddle and vanished into the shadows, Nyah felt different, not stronger, not braver, just aware. Aware that somewhere, hidden deep inside her, was something greater than the fire in her eyes. Something waiting, something watching, and in the days that followed, her world began to change. The village had always whispered about her, but now the whispers turned to fear for something new. Haunted the land. The animals of the forest no longer approached the village. The river ran slower, the winds grew silent, and at night, strange shadows danced beyond the tree line. First, it was just a feeling. Then, it became real. Crops withered overnight. Children woke from dreams they could not remember, screaming. Men returned from the hunt empty-handed, or not at all. Darkness crept closer. And though the villagers could not see it, Naya could, at night, when the fires dimmed and the wind stood still. She sat at the edge of the village and stared into the trees. And in the blackness, she saw eyes glowing. Red UNBLINK, watching her. One evening, as fear strangled the village tighter than ever, the elders gathered. The oldest among them spoke grimly. It is her, the cursed child, where she walks. Darkness follows. We must drive her out, another elder said, before she brings ruin upon us. Naya's mother, Abeni, stood trembling. Her voice cracked as she said, "She is a child." But no one listened. Fear speaks louder than reason, and fear ruled them now at dawn. They came, the entire village, carrying torches, carrying stones, and standing before them, alone. Was Nyah. Her mother knelt beside her, arms wrapped around her fragile body. "Give her to the forest," someone shouted. "Let the darkness take back its child." Another screamed, and the chief, silent until now, whispered, "Take her." But Naya did not cry. Her eyes burned calmly. Silently, she stepped forward, pushing her mother's hands away, and she spoke. Her voice soft but clear. "You fear me, but I am not your fear." And with those words, Naya turned and walked into the forest alone behind her. The villagers watched in silence. None followed. None called her back, for to them, she was gone, lost to the darkness, a curse, carried away by the trees. But they were wrong, because that night, as the village slept, the shadows came. Background shifts too deep, tense drumming. From the edges of the forest, dark figures crept. Not human, not beast. Something older, something colder. The dark spirits, they moved like smoke. Yet their claws tore flesh. Their voices whispered promises of fear. And by the time the first villager screamed, it was too late. The village of silence burned, and there was no one left to protect. No one. Except the child they had sent away, far in the forest. Naya felt the fire inside her shift. It burned hotter, brighter, not in her eyes, but in her soul. She fell to her knees, beneath the sacred baobab tree, tears mixing with ash, and a voice, ancient and deep, spoke inside her mind. "Daughter of the flame, what will you choose?" And as the village cried in terror, Naya answered, "I choose to fight." Under the sacred baobab tree, deep within the forest, Naya sat shaking. Her tiny hands gripped the earth. Her body burned, not from fear, but from something awakening. From within her soul, the fire stirred, and then a presence emerged. Not from shadows, not from darkness, but from light, an ancient spirit. Older than the trees themselves, materialized before her. Her form shimmered like golden smoke. Her voice carried no sound, yet filled Naya's mind. "You carry their fear, because you carry their hope." Naya, confused and trembling, whispered, "What am I?" The spirit knelt, her eyes glowing softly. You are a flame bearer, a protector born from light to burn away darkness. Naya shook her head. I don't want to burn, but the spirit replied, without fire. Darkness devours all. Your fire is not destruction, it is protection. That night, the spirit taught Nayage, not spells, not weapons, but truth. The fire in your eyes is the light in your soul. When you believe you are cursed, your flame will hurt you. But when you believe you are worthy, your flame will protect. Najee listened, she learned, and slowly, Sajay understood. Her fire wasn't born to harm. It was born to heal, but only if she chose it. Do you choose your fire? The spirit asked. Nyah stood, eyes glowing, tears drying, and said, I choose. As the sun rose, Naya's training was complete. She was no longer the cursed child. She was the flame bearer, but her test had not ended. It had only begun because beyond the trees, the village screamed. The dark spirits were tearing through the village. Huts collapsed. Men fell. Children cried. The people begged for mercy from shadows that knew none. And as darkness claimed her home, Naya returned. She walked calmly, no longer hiding, no longer afraid. Her eyes burned. Not with rage, but with purpose. Her feet touched the ash-covered earth, and the shadows turned, for they smelled it. The ancient flame, and they feared her, but fear did not stop them. The largest shadow lunged, a beast of smoke and claws. Naya raised her hands, no spells, no words, only belief. Her palms glowed, and from her small body, a soft golden flame burst outward. Not wild, not harsh, but warm. Pure, it washed over the creature like sunlight over frost, and the shadow dissolved, gone. The villagers watched, silent, stunned, and Naya spoke. You feared me when you should have trusted me. Now stand behind me. And for the first time, they did. The battle raged as darkness fell. Shadows attacked Naya. Burn-taught her fire danced like living gold. Wherever she stepped, the shadows fled. Wherever she turned, the light followed. But the darkness was endless. And her strength? Not as Naya stumbled, exhaustion claiming her small frame. She whispered, I am not enough. But the voice of the ancient spirit echoed in her heart. Your fire is not yours alone. Let them share it. Naya understood. She turned to the villagers, once fearful, now desperate. She reached out her hands and whispered, Take my light. One by one, their hands touched hers. And in that moment, their hearts burned, not with fire, but with courage, with unity, with hope, and the fire spread. The village itself became light. Together, they fought. Together, they burned. And as the final shadows screamed and faded, dawn rose, and darkness was no more. The village stood silent. Then, from the ashes, a cheer rose. Nyah-small, exhausted, yet unbroken, stood at their center. No longer cursed, no longer feared. She was their savior, their flame bearer. Morning touched the earth like a gentle hand. For the first time in many moons, light returned to the village. Not just sunlight, but hope. Nyah stood silently as the villagers gathered around her. Eyes once filled with fear, now held something. Respect, gratitude, and shame. Her mother, Abeni, ran to her, tears streaming, but this time not of sorrow. Of pride, she knelt. Arms around the child once called cursed, whispering, Forgive us. But Naya, tired yet calm, simply said, I understand. And in those words, the village healed. That day, the chief called for a gathering beneath the great baobab tree, the same tree where Naya had trained. Now, the people stood humbly before her, and the chief a man once silent when fear ruled him, lowered his head. "Child, you saved us. You are no curse. You are our protector." Naya did not speak. She did not need to. The fire in her eyes was no longer feared, it was followed. She had become the village's light, but Naya knew her task was not over. That night, as the village slept in peace, she sat alone beside the sacred tree. The ancient spirit appeared once more, its golden form flickering softly. "You have done well, Flamebearer," the spirit whispered. "But remember, darkness always returns. Keep your fire alive, not through power, but through love. Teach them." Naya nodded, and from that night forward, she did. Every evening, children gathered around her, listening not to stories of war or magic, but of compassion, of bravery, of truth. She taught them that power without understanding leads to fear, and that light without purpose is only brightness, not guidance. Seasons passed. Nyah grew. Her fire remained, but it was no longer wild. It was steady, gentle, strong. The village changed. It became known across the land, not as the place cursed by the child of fire, but as the village of light. People traveled from distant lands, not to fight, but to learn, to listen, to heal, and so. The girl once abandoned, once called witch and demon, became legend, not for her fire, but for her wisdom. One day, years later, Naya stood beside her mother, watching children laugh. A Benny whispered, "Do you ever miss the time before your fire?" Naya smiled softly, eyes glowing not with fire, but with peace. "I was never without it. I just didn't know what it meant." A Benny kissed her brow. "Now you do." The sun set. The village glowed, not with fear, not with darkness, but with light, Naya's light, the light she chose. Years passed. The village, once haunted by fear, now thrived. Its fields were rich, its people happy, and its children no longer feared the night, all because of one girl. No longer a child, but a woman, a teacher, a protector. L99, now older, sat beneath a sacred baobab tree each evening. Around her, children gathered, listening, learning, for Naya no longer taught about fire. She taught about life. "What makes the flame powerful?" she would ask, and small hands would rise. "Its heat," one child guessed. "Its light," said another, but Naya would shake her head softly. "Its purpose," she'd say. "Without purpose, fire consumes. With purpose, it protects." And the children understood, because Naya was no longer their savior. She was their storyteller. One night, under a silver moon, the old chief approached her. Time had taken his strength, but not his wisdom. He sat beside her silently for a while. Then he asked, "Are you happy, Flamebearer?" Naya looked at him. Her eyes still flickered faintly. The fire never left, but her voice was calm. "I am, and when my fire fades, others will carry it." The chief smiled, because he understood. Her flame was no longer just hers. It lived. In every soul she had touched, seasons changed again, and Naya felt her time slowing. Not ending, just slowing. She knew her path. And one morning, as dawn kissed the earth, she stood at the village gate. Children followed her. Adults watched quietly. She turned, smiling softly, and whispered, "The fire in my eyes is not the gift. The gift was choosing how to use it." With that, she walked into the forest, not to vanish, but to rest. The villagers waited for her return. Days passed, then weeks, until one night, a strange thing happened. From the sacred baobab tree, a light shone soft, golden, warm. And when the villagers came, they found no body, only ashes and peace From that night onward, they said the tree itself burned with gentle light, not a flame, but a presence. And whenever fear tried to return, the people would gather beneath that tree. They'd tell the tale of a baby born under a blood moon. A baby feared, a baby abandoned, a baby who chose to protect. And as night fell over the village, they whispered, "Sometimes the fire we fear is the very light meant to save us." The end. Thanks for watching. Hoped you liked it. If you watched till the end, please comment N so that we could understand you were with us till the end. As well as, please let us know where are you watching from. Before leaving, please hit the subscribe button, comment your thought, and share with your nearest and dearest one. See you in the next one. Until to the next one, stay happy. Goodbye.